Hello again, Tammy Davis. Decided to pull over off the side of the road because, well, when I'm out and about, sometimes I have these thoughts floating through my head, well, all the time. And it becomes necessary for me to actually pull over and jot things down because I want to write about it. In this case, even do videos on it. And I feel it's really important because I find myself involved in more and more conversations and teaching more individuals about not just the type of work that I'm doing, but just how to begin to change our context around health and begin to break the cycle of disease management. I think my biggest issue or complaint, challenge that I have is that our current model views illness, health conditions, as the problem, and we target our approach. The one that actually is on my mind today is regarding cholesterol. So many people are being told that they have high cholesterol, and in fact, I just was on a website that was, there's a high percentage of people in the United States alone living with high cholesterol. And, we've become so accustomed to that being a health concern that we're ignoring the fact that high cholesterol is a sign that something is not right in the system, that the system is malfunctioning in a way. I mean, I really don't like to use the word malfunctioning because the fact is, it's actually functioning to for our highest good. It's just there's been adjustments that have occurred that went unnoticed for years. And a large part of that is because it's not anybody's fault. It's just the model that we have, which is address the symptom, address the problem, and basically put bandages on everything. Take this medication, take this supplement, and I completely understand it. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. This is how our ancestors did it. When they were injured and they got sick, they treated the ailment. But the fact is there's a lot more going on. And the more we actually understand how DNA operates, the better equipped we are to actually work with the body in a more holistic manner. So, as you've heard me say before, if you've watched any of my other videos, and in case you haven't, I'll just say it here, that the bottom line is that we're all dealing with the stress response. Now, this isn't mental and emotional stress. This is stress in the way nature intended. Stress that affects all of nature, even the trees behind me here. They're impacted by the environment just like our bodies are impacted by the environment. These guys aren't withering as a result of the environmental toxins. They're not collapsing due to the exposure of bacteria and viruses. Again, other environmental factors. They're constantly communicating with one another in the way of, if there's a potential pest coming into the area, or there is a pest that has entered into the area, they release aromatics. This is how plants actually communicate. This is how the DNA works. It actually makes the necessary adjustments so that the body can acclimate. Over time, though, when it comes to chronic exposure, we do know that animals now, we know that there's cancer in animals. We do recognize, I've seen it firsthand, some of the plants out in the fields are falling victim, if you will, to the GMOs in the area. Again, this isn't a poo-poo on GMOs. I completely understand why GMOs were developed, and the challenge that they're presenting to our environment, especially in the fields of organic farmers, is the onset of bacteria and fungus that's actually attacking the fields. This is actually a new area that I've entered into, is helping farmers treat their fields. As a means to not come against the GMO farmers, but to protect their own fields in as natural way as possible, because remaining within the organic realm. So that said, all of nature is vulnerable to everything that we're currently being exposed to. But the fact is, like I said initially, we know so much about DNA and the way it operates to turn such a blind eye to it that we are. And so the way I work and what I'm proposing through my videos and through my blog and the individual work that I do and the courses that I teach is to actually help people understand that there's a different way of approaching this, that our current conventional model is no longer effective, and we're actually making ourselves sicker. And again, I want to go out and say that I respect the medical field in the sense that there is an important piece. These medications do provide a lot of support. They do sustain lives, and everybody, and again, most importantly, they provide options. That's what we deserve. We deserve to have these options available to us. So medications do offer that. It's up to the individual to decide whether or not they want to take the medications, and if they want to complement it, and I mean complement, I don't mean approach the body in the same manner. So if you're talking about high cholesterol and you're taking a statin, you don't want to be using natural remedies that are going to be addressing cholesterol, and we're trying to reduce cholesterol. That is combatant, and that creates even more inflammation. It's counterintuitive. You want to complement the system. So what I'm getting at here is everybody has the right to options. And so whether you want to use pharmaceuticals alongside natural remedies or just want to go all natural, it's totally your option. But my proposal is begin to, yes, you want to address the symptoms. Pardon me, I had a drink before I started talking, and my body's letting me know that I drank too quickly. Anyway, the whole idea here with this is to break free from the cycle of disease management. That's the reason why I have this course. The cycle of disease management is, again, like I mentioned, there's an issue, we address the immediate issue. We're not taking a bigger look. And the bigger look is that the DNA has been adapting for some time due to environmental issues, lifestyle choices that includes body care products. It's not, and the foods that we eat, of course, have additives in them. And when you're eating processed and refined foods, this isn't, again, to say get off the junk food. Everybody, again, has their options. But what I'm saying is everything that we are consuming, whether we're breathing it, drinking it, smearing it on our skin, you name it, it is affecting our system. Combine that with the normal function of the system, because our hormones, our chemical messengers, they are what signal the cells to do and take action. They activate and deactivate themselves, or they activate and deactivate the cells, rather, and the cell receptors, more importantly. And this is ongoing. This happens whether we want it to or not. This is just how our body functions. This is how iron is released. This is how cholesterol is synthesized. There's a matter of function that has to occur, and then you put all the additional information in, and then compound that with mental and emotional stress, and the body is significantly overwhelmed. So, what does all of that mean? Well, we've heard of oxidative stress. We always hear about eating, getting our antioxidants. And oxidative stress is actually just another form of saying stress response. It is what happens in the face of a stress response. The stress response affects the autonomic nervous system. I should say, is what activates the autonomic nervous system. How this translates into your daily life will be determined by your genetics. And I don't necessarily mean what was passed on to you from your parents. I'm talking about your own genome is adapted over the years of your being on this planet. And depending on how your genome has adapted and continues to adjust itself accordingly, will determine how that stress response plays out in your system. The challenge with it is a lot of people end up with digestive issues. Again, the physiological effects of stress are, it's a pretty good list. And that's something that's actually available through my course, Self as Sanctuary. But the fact is that there's significant physiological changes that occur, and it's only because the body is redirecting the energy for survival. Now, part of, my goodness, there wasn't any cars here when I sat down here. So part of the breath work that many people do and teach, and meditation and mindfulness and prayer, changing your thoughts, being positive, those all have a great deal of benefit, because the fact is, like I said, there's a stress response that activates the autonomic nervous system. How this plays out in the body really depends on your individual genome. But the bottom line is that, in theory, there's no dire emergency. This is the reason why these techniques actually are very helpful. Because if we can take the time to remind ourselves on a regular basis throughout the day, and through deep breathing, through exercise, through yoga, through meditation and prayer, whatever your options are that you choose to self-soothe, is a huge step in letting the body know that it's okay. This doesn't completely reverse everything. The reason for that is because of the environment. Now, in an ideal situation, I'd like to say that all would be plenty. And the inclusion of essential oils makes a huge difference, because they are basically full of signaling molecules. But as I said, in an ideal situation, those techniques should be enough to help the body calm down enough to keep the chemistry regulated. But the fact is that we've been exposed to so much, and I'm currently working on a piece right now about response and reacting. And the fact is that the world is getting faster and faster and faster. Everything had to happen as of yesterday. And this added pressure, in addition to our own concerns and our own families and such, over the years has been compounded. And so there's a lot of undoing that has to occur. This is one of the most difficult things for people to experience when they are in the process of taking on this level of work. It's not a long-term experience, but it's one of gradual progress. And it takes a great deal of patience to understand that the body is undoing. And I have great respect for those in recovery from addiction, because a lot of times through addiction, we're covering up emotions, and the body is a warehouse of emotions. And so as the body begins to release this, there's an extraordinary amount of pain and discomfort. A lot of times, I speak from personal experience. So undoing what was done over all those years takes a great deal of compassion for oneself, and through and how you got to where you are, and the fact that you're taking steps to undo it. So I know this is a long way away from cholesterol, but what I'm getting at is that this model is not just about treating symptoms. Symptom relief is necessary. It's important. I mean, why would anybody enter into a treatment protocol that is going to leave them feeling like crap? So helping to relieve the symptoms is important, but understanding that we also need to alleviate that stress response. And again, so those techniques that I mentioned are phenomenal. Supporting the digestive system is essential. And we've covered all of that, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you may have about relieving the stress response. But in the meantime, when it comes to cholesterol, there's a couple of things that I want to say about this. If someone has high cholesterol, you already know you have a hormonal imbalance. So my approach is basically overactive stress response, overactive immune system, imbalanced hormonal system. And how that rolls out, I mean, you're going to have a digestive issue. And I've mentioned this before. Somebody once said to me, how do I know if I have a digestive problem if my bowels move? And, and it's like, if you have a health problem, you have a digestive problem. And it may not be in the stomach and the bowels. It may be actually down to how you're not breaking down nutrients at the cell level. And this is what brings me to cholesterol. You see, because cholesterol is synthesized in the liver, but it's also synthesized in other areas of the body. Choline, which is an important B vitamin, is actually used in the synthesis of cholesterol. Now, we know we have two types of cholesterol. There's the HDL and the LDL, also known as the good cholesterol and the bad cholesterol. These are basically just lipoproteins, which means fat paired with protein. Now, the reason this is important is because the LDL actually has a purpose in the body. And that is to actually carry additional cholesterol into the cells when the cells require it. So the LDL has a purpose. This is where I get, this is kind of an insight into how my mind works, because we have this really interesting way of labeling things good and bad. For instance, like gluten and casein. Well, that's supposed to be bad proteins, but the fact is that I just refuse to believe that we shouldn't be eating gluten and casein, because casein is actually needed in the body. That there's actually a casein receptor. I'm just going to put it to you that way. So, and there's also a receptor or a gene complex that actually is that works to break down gluten and casein. And when those are two proteins, and when those aren't getting broken down, that's a signal that the stress response has been activated. And when the stress response is going, we're not breaking glucose and proteins down properly. When it comes to cholesterol, like I said, there is a purpose for the LDL. It's not bad. When it gets to high levels, it's dangerous. It does put our health at risk, absolutely. But here's the reason it goes high. It actually, when it starts to go high, of course, of all things, just like when proteins, there's too many protein particles floating around, or larger particles floating around, or bacteria in your body, such as Lyme and other things, it activates the immune system because the body doesn't recognize it as usable. LDL is not usable at a high level. It is necessary to carry additional cholesterol into the cells when the cells require it, and then it's necessary for it to be deactivated. This doesn't happen this doesn't happen when oxidative stress is produced. Now, what's interesting to me is acetylcholine is used to produce acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter that activates the stress response. It is also used in the bowels to help reduce, it's actually used in the bowels to produce another chemical called butyric acid that I've spoken about. This butyric acid is needed to reduce, of all things, oxidative stress. So there you have another benefit for acetylcholine, but it doesn't happen in the stress response. So now you have higher levels of oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is also the result of high level of DNA activation and adaptations. And this is where and so, yeah, it's great to eat your antioxidants, but how about we actually help the body produce the antioxidants, such as glutathione and the SOD catalase? Yes, I know there are people who sell it in supplement form, but the body's designed to produce it. And if we eat properly and we nourish our liver and our digestive system, and we understand that cholesterol is actually necessary. It is necessary for brain and nerve health. It's also necessary for hormone production. And if you have higher levels of these cholesterols or higher LDLs, that's a sure sign that your immune system is activated and you've got inflammation occurring. And so it goes right back to what I said initially. Overactive stress response, which is now signaling an immune reaction because fats, of all things, as well as glucose and protein, are not being broken down properly. And now you have also a hormonal imbalance. So, is high cholesterol an important thing to help control? Of course it is. You don't want to risk your life. And at the same time, there is a way to actually regulate your cholesterol. And of course, I know there's plenty of physicians that will encourage, fruit and veggies and low, not a lot of meat. I mean, I do recognize the diet that gets suggested, but the fact is that if we assist the body, I'm really sorry for all the noise. Like I said, when I pulled over here, I was the only car on the road, and now it's like everybody wants to hear what I'm saying, I guess. I'm just kidding. Anyway, if we assist the body, or when we assist the body to actually break these nutrients down into usable sizes, we relieve the immune response. Now, if you're in a chronic state of health issues, this isn't going to happen overnight. This is going to take some undoing, and it's going to take a lot of grace and a lot of compassion, but it is undoable. And I stand firmly by that. And I do understand that the way I talk is completely outside the way everybody else is speaking, but I'm fascinated by our chemistry, and I refuse to believe that everything, there's such a fine line or such a black and white way to life. Like I said, gluten and casein aren't bad. They, eliminating from the diet when you have gluten sensitivity is a good idea. And if you choose not to help the system relieve, kind of stabilize the stress, stabilize the autonomic nervous system, stabilize the immune system, and help to regulate the hormonal system. If you don't want to do that, that is okay. It is absolutely okay. Those are options. That is a road to take to undoing the health condition that you currently are living with. Does it take time? Of course it takes time. It took time to get to the condition that you're in, so it's going to take some time to undo it. And this is where the biggest challenge is for most people, because we've become accustomed to treating and experiencing relief, and then when something else arises, we just treat and experience relief. But the fact is that continually treating is potentially aggravating the system. When you treat the body, in the case of high cholesterol, and I've had several high cholesterol cases that have come to my attention, when someone's taking cholesterol lowering medication, it's not advisable to continue to try and lower cholesterol with other natural remedies. It is possible to stabilize the system, and then with your physician's assistance, work your way off as you stabilize the hormonal system and you stabilize the immune system and you help reduce oxidative stress. Would it be advisable to take glutathione and SOD catalase? Maybe in the interim till you could start seeing some things. I mean, again, I am not a big advocate for taking things that the body makes, which includes vitamin D and includes glutathione and SOD catalase and CoQ10. And the reason for that is because the more you give the body that it's supposed to make, the less it's going to make, because everything, for the most part, or many chemicals, are signaling molecules. And when those signaling molecules are placed into the system, let's just use vitamin D as an example. You're signaling to the body, you don't have to make it because I'm going to give it to you. But the more you give it vitamin D, the less likely it's going to produce vitamin D. And that's a hormone. So this is a lot of information, and I don't know if it made any sense. I'm hoping it did, because it certainly made sense to me in my head. But like I said, high cholesterol is essentially the result. It's an inflammatory process, is what it is. It's inflammation. I mean, LDL is there for a reason, and when the fats aren't being broken down properly, you can have higher level. When any of the macronutrients aren't being broken down properly, you're going to have an immune reaction, and that's stressful to the system. And the longer this goes on, the longer the stress response is activated, because we're not breaking free from it. And the only way we're going to break free from that and managing the issues that arise is to actually change the way we approach the system. And again, what I propose does sound very simple, and yet it is very effective. If you support the hormonal system, stabilize the immune system, enhance the digestive system, and assist the cells with using the nutrients properly, you're golden. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you're having a great day wherever you are. And I look forward to talking to you later. If you want to check out my website, synergessence.com, which is where you can just kind of sign up, or you can sign up for my newsletter. You can also follow my blog on there. You can get a notification when I post on that. You can also email me at Tammy@synergessence.com. So I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again. I'll talk to you later. Bye.